Yes. No, they don't suspect a thing. Yes, we'll be going through the humans report shortly. No, I know. It worked perfectly. They found out almost nothing about it, what they? It said that they suspected in some cases advanced technology? This is unacceptable. Yes, I'll assume my human voice and form and try to explain things in a rational, unbiased way. You know, just to really freak the nerds out. What? No, who would have a camera outside of the space?
Love you. Bye. Oh, man. That thing just lands quicker and quicker every time. Hello, and welcome to Office Hours, a live component of the facility where good old Professor Kyle opens up his blast doors and allows you, all the members of the public who ignored my warning signs, all my faculty, staff, security team, to come on in and ask me any old science-y, pop culture-y, why are your fingernails painted kind of question for the next hour or so as we go through a number of topics as we're wont to do. Today, of course, we'll be going through the declassified UFO report from the heart of the U.S. government. We'll be talking about the latest episode of the facility, which was me checking out some sick lava. And if we get to it, we'll talk about how social media is probably destroying society in a kind of philosophical question. But if you want to continue on this conversation after this live stream is over, you can always go to patreon.com/Kyle Hill, as my security team is putting in the chat. You can join our Discord, you can get episodes early, you can see behind-the-scenes photos, you can have monthly private live streams with yours truly, not like this. You get to ask me any old question. And remember, the security team is in the chat, so if you say anything weird, they ban you. But they won't ban you if you're really trying to get my attention by using super chats. Now, I can't promise I'll get to every little thing, but I will try to highlight some of our lovely supporters of all the work we're doing here, all the science-y, communication-y kind of work. Dr. Beefcastle, one of my security team, the 50, says, hey boss, had a question, as an example, from my parents. We were discussing nuclear energy, but a large sticking point was nuclear waste. We know how bad carbon emissions are, but what is nuclear waste and how dangerous is its disposal? Nuclear waste is the byproduct, the products of the fission reactions that happen inside of nuclear reactors. We use these fission reactors to generate tremendous heat, that heat to generate a lot of steam, those steam to turn turbines, those turbines turn into electricity. The waste product is that as these nuclear materials undergo nuclear reactions, they don't stay as the same material. So if you have uranium, for example, as the uranium is losing parts and pieces of itself in these reactions, protons and neutrons, it can't stay as the same element, right? You probably learned that in chemistry, that the elements are separated by what particles make them up. So as they lose these particles in radioactive decay, they become different materials that can't be used as efficiently or at all in these nuclear reactors. And so we remove that material as waste. Now, how bad is waste of a problem? Well, it's nowhere near as much of a problem as carbon emissions are. Carbon emissions are driving climate change, human-caused climate change, and it's by far a bigger problem. Nuclear waste is very dangerous, but if you're not near it and you're not close enough to touch it, you're probably fine. And the way that we store it now is we drill these giant holes, we put these in these giant drums, we fill these giant holes and giant drums with many feet of concrete, and because nuclear energy is incredibly efficient, the amount of nuclear waste that's actually produced is incredibly small if you compare it to something like carbon emissions. So the waste problem isn't really a problem. We have many holes on Earth in which to dump. Which sounds worse. Jeffrey Spears with the 50. Hey show, Kyle the Love. First time I'm catching the live stream. Keep up the amazing work, spreading the word of science. So happy to have you here, Jeffrey. It is live. Andrew Steidman The 999, I found a new door in Sector 3 of the facility. I swear it wasn't here yesterday. The room only contains a mirror that whispers cosmic secrets not meant to be heard by human ears. So in a lot of I have a lot of free time in the facility, and sometimes when you're looking at a mirror in like one of the hallways, it's kind of like those moving eye paintings. I'm behind the mirror, whispering things at you. We have Kaylin Andy with the 22 Australian dollars. Says Ash Kinnear with the 20 says, oh wow, a real live Kyle. Goo. They didn't say the goo part. Pinfair 13. Let's pause the super chats for a second because I know many of you probably have no idea who I am and do not care. You just want to hear about alien stuff. So let's pause so we can get to that first topic. I'm wearing my alien shirt. It says, it's never a... I'm not biased. Pinfair with the 10. Any interest in Battlebots? It's a great intro to Steam and generally awesome. Last season, they dedicated their Best Engineering Award to Grant Imahara and gave it to a giant robo-crab with a hammer. Yeah, not Battlebots specifically, although I used to watch it as a kid too. That's where I first saw Grant. But just robotics, like FIRST robotics. Robotics is a wonderful way to get kids into engineering. I've actually I've been on the set of Battlebots before, and there's a lot of overlap between science education and communication like I do and what they're trying to do. When I went to the set of Battlebots, they're like, hey, science guy. I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. So it's a good introduction. I highly recommend getting a kid into robotics if they show interest in it. Squirrel Grill with the 20. Kyle loved the show and such. Simo says, Kyle was a kid? No. Like human belief in extraterrestrials, I'm eternal. So, the Tic Tac, which is kind of like my finger right now. Recently, there's been a lot of media buzz about aliens and declassified military reports or governmental reports about aliens. This was required to be divulged by the U.S. government. It was stapled onto a stimulus package in the U.S. Congress saying, okay, we can help people out with COVID, but also, what about the aliens? That's what really happened. And so the military, the Pentagon, and other agencies was required by this bill to produce a report on everything they currently know about recent UFO sightings or UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, as they're also called, sightings from military personnel, pilots, people on aircraft carriers, that sort of thing. Not symmetrical. There we go. And the beginnings of that report just came out. And I'm seeing more buzz on it. Lars Becker, greetings from Germany in the middle of the night. Guten Tag, my friend. I've been seeing this getting more buzz than I think it otherwise should. And it's for more or less one sentence in the report. And one sentence in the report is being very, it's like, So, I'm sure many of you seeing the title who have no idea who I am might not believe anything that I say and might not be persuaded from a skeptical point of view. So to get around that problem, you and I, if you haven't done it already, you and I will quickly skim the actual report together, such that you're not just believing what I say. I will show you the report and we will go through it together. Okay? So, it's very short. Don't worry, I'm not going to be reading for 20 minutes or something like that. So, what is the report? Well, straight, unclassified. Straight from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, some dude. Preliminary assessment of UAPs. Now, before I really want to get into this, I want you to keep the context of everything very clear, right? The big picture. So going into this, everyone has one question. Does this mean aliens? Okay. Now, as we keep that question in the back of our minds. I want you to pay very close attention to all the caveats and context that this report gets into before we get to that weird sentence that seems to be a bombshell, okay? Keep the context in mind. Some context at the beginning. These are military people who are looking for active threats. If it's not an active threat, they probably don't care. Okay? So anything that could be a potential threat to national security, they're going to pay attention to. Whether that be a UFO, a Russian aircraft, a balloon that's in their airspace, it's all going to be categorized as an issue. Okay? These are not, in all cases, physicists and exobiologists and stuff like that. Okay? So that's context up front. This is a military and governmental report. So they're looking at a couple of incidents from 2004 to 2001. A few hundred, I believe. And they're going through this with this assumption that the sensors that are picking up these UAPs are operating correctly and capture real data to allow initial assessments, but some of these could be attributable to sensor anomalies. So right off the bat, they are saying that everything that we're about to say is assuming everything that we recorded was recorded perfectly. And in some cases, some of the UAP might be because it wasn't recorded perfectly. Okay, you'll, like I was saying, as you'll see this, you'll see the layering of context that might push you in one direction or the other. So, executive summary. So this is, if you've never read a paper or a report before, an executive summary is basically a one-page description of the entire thing, and it gives you all the juicy bits. Okay. Now, this is a highly anticipated. Hey, Frederick. This is a highly anticipated report. And this is the first sentence of the executive summary. Okay? Again. Context. The limited amount of high-quality reporting on UAP hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UAP. The first sentence of the summary of the report is that we have bad data and therefore we can't really make a good conclusion. That's the first sentence. But here is one of the bombshell sentences. In a limited number of incidents, UAP reportedly appeared to exhibit unusual flight characteristics. Oh, what? Alien craft? Flying through with some sort of otherworldly acceleration, could it be? Well, these observations could be the result of sensor errors, spoofing, or observer misperception and require additional rigorous analysis. Again, the layering of context here. Before you get ahead of yourself, here are 4 other explanations that would make sense. There are probably multiple types of UAPs requiring different explanations. They clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to national security. Of course, we need more money and better reporting. Okay. So, with just the executive summary, we already have a handful of alternative explanations that aren't aliens that could be attributable to just sensor error, and they have no firm conclusions about anything. That's how the report starts, all right? John Wilson with the 20 says, "Hey Kyle, your last analysis of the Tic Tac being anomaly of the new infrared cameras was excellent. The latest public preliminary assessment of the UAP report simply means they will reopen the Blue Book project." Well, let's get into it. So, we have 144 reports. Of those, a majority involved observation with multiple sensors, which is good from a data collection standpoint. However, Sociocultural stigmas and sensor limitations remain obstacles to collecting actual data. In many cases, pilots or observers feel like they shouldn't report these things, or they might be made fun of for reporting these things. That's a legitimate and interesting psychological quirk to this, right? Where, what if someone like me, who's skeptical, actually saw something? Would I hesitate to report it because of what it might mean? That's an interesting quirk. That's something interesting to keep in mind. However, you would need a lot of evidence that a lot of people are doing that to keep something from, getting out or what have you. And I don't think we see that. The sensors, another data collection problem. The sensors mounted on U.S. military platforms, like some of these aircraft carriers, are typically designed to fulfill specific missions. As a result, those sensors are not generally suited for identifying UAP. Another, what I would consider a nail in this kind of coffin, right? Not only do you have human observers that are very fallible, and we know that, but you have UAPs or UFOs identified on sensors that are not meant to collect data that are good for identifying them. So of course it's going to look weird. But some patterns do emerge, the report says. UAP sightings tend to cluster around U.S. training and testing grounds, but we assess that this may result from a collection bias as a result of focused attention. Now here it is. Here is the big bombshell sentence in this report. Can you actually see me? Can you actually see me highlight stuff? Okay. I should have known that going into this. In 18 incidents, UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics were unusual. That's harder to read. Some UAP appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems processed RF energy associated with these sightings. Appears to show UAP demonstrating acceleration or a degree of signature management. Meaning, I'm guessing, signature management, meaning that they are reducing something like their radio frequency cross-section, stealth technology. Additional rigorous analysis are necessary by multiple teams or groups of technical experts to determine the nature and validity of these data. Remember, data is a plural. We are conducting further analysis to determine if breakthrough technologies were demonstrated. Whoa! So in less than 10% or around 10% of recorded incidents, measurements and observations reported that some of these things were moving weird, if they were indeed things. And if they were moving in this way, they would move in a way that is not consistent with how we think aircraft operate and with how physics goes. Now, I was talking about keeping the big picture in mind here, right? What is more likely? We're going into this blind. What is more likely? That the laws of the universe as we understand them are incorrect and work in the favor of some unidentified thing, or somebody or some machine has made a mistake? Which is more likely to you? Well, what else could these be then, Kyle? Science man. Well, as the report says, these UAP probably lack a single explanation, and they offer a few more. Could be airborne clutter, balloons, aerial vehicles, like drones you can buy, airborne debris like plastic bags, natural atmospheric phenomena, ice crystals, moisture, thermal fluctuations that register on infrared and radar systems. We talked about this with the Tic Tac video. This thing. If you're looking for a heat signature with infrared, and in the atmosphere there's pockets of heat and cold, and this would create kind of thermal shadows, then seeing something shadowy like this on a thermal camera makes perfect sense. USG or industry development programs these UAPs could be classified programs. And they could be programs by foreign adversaries like China, Russia, another nation, or another non-governmental entity. These UAP threaten flight safety and possible national security. And we need more money and better data to fully figure that out. Now, that is more or less the report in full. So how do we take it? Right. Like I said at the beginning, with context here, military and governmental personnel reporting on things in the sky in this way are going to classify anything that they find, whether it be an alien or a plastic bag from Ralph's, either one of those, if they're observing a lot of them in the sky, they are going to say is a flight risk. So just saying that they found some flight risks does not mean it is some little green guy zooming around photographing your butt. Why did I say that? Who knows? So with that military angle in mind, I think by focusing on they say it might be a risk to national security. Yes, but they say that for anything that they can't explain that is in your airspace. So that's not a great angle for me. And the same report that we're looking at, also offers at least a dozen alternative explanations for what this could be. Now, given all of that context, I ask you again, even if some of these things are recorded on multiple sensors and are shown to be moving weird or with some kind of acceleration or whatever, how likely is it that the laws of the universe have been broken? How likely is it that it's just a malfunction or someone misremembering? Remember how bad the data collection has been, which the report says. Eyewitness testimony. I'll say this. Eyewitness testimony is legally the worst form of evidence. I believe it's the lowest form of evidence. Even if you're a military trained pilot, even if you're a colonel, admiral and you're looking up right up in the sky yourself on the deck of an aircraft carrier, eyewitness testimony is fallible, easily manipulated, easily misremembered. It's a bad form of evidence. Most eyewitness testimony is no better than a story. So, with bad data, with alternative explanations, is this a bombshell of a report? Like I'm seeing, look, this is and I know I'm not just making a straw man here. And a straw man argument is I create a fake argument to argue against that's very easy to knock down, a straw man. But I'm not just saying that. Look, this is an article in The Conversation, the website The Conversation, which routinely has very, very good articles by scientists in them. And here's the headline. Pentagon report says UFOs can't be explained, and this admission is a really big deal. And look how they're leaning into it. No known aircraft can travel faster than sound without creating a sonic boom. Whoa. So you have people very naively just leaning straight into, well, if it is moving weird, then it must have supersonic physics breaking tech. Well, hold on a second. Could be a bag that looked weird in the night sky and you misremembered it. But I saw it. I don't believe you. That's why you need more data. I agree with the report in that the data collection process has to be much better, the reporting process has to be much cleaner, and they probably need more funding and better scientists and all that kind of thing. But what this report is not saying It is not saying we have found something that is likely extraterrestrials. The first sentence says we have bad data and we can't really say what it is. But here are 10 other things that it probably is. So aliens, I don't think it's ever aliens. I would love to be persuaded, but to this day, I have not seen a single good piece of evidence or persuasive argument that answers that question that I posed to you earlier. What is more likely? The suspension of everything that we know about how the universe works, or some hairless apes on a kind of a rock somewhere in one galaxy out of billions misinterpreted how light went into one of their electric boxes. Nerdy Loki, with the Australian $20, says, with aliens having a non-zero chance of existing, would there be a higher chance of those aliens being so far away that we would die out as a species before they make it to Earth? Yes. I've always said that I think other life in the universe is probably pretty likely. 100 billion stars in our galaxy. Oh my goodness. That's a lot of money. We'll get to you, buddy. We'll get to you, Zivernir. But there's a billion stars in our galaxy, a billion galaxies. We think that most stars have planets around them. It's very, very likely that there's other life in the universe, to me. But there's so many other issues with us contacting that life in any way. And Nerdy Loki, you bring up a fantastic point that even if aliens exist, they might be so far away because nothing can travel faster than the speed of light that they would never, ever get to us. And we would never receive their signal, especially with the universe expanding. Cheech Ola with the Australian, a lot of Australians here, aye, with a 3099. G'day, Kyle. Could Superman really see through a prison two-way mirror like in Man of Steel? Is that how X-rays work? How mirrors work? How Supermans work? Cheers, you legend! The problem with X-ray vision, I'll say it this way. The problem with X-ray vision is that, as I said on Because Science, an X-ray is a bone shadowing machine. It's not a reflecting machine. So with photons of visible light, something like light from this, whatever this is, bounces off of my forehead, reflects, and then it goes into this camera to you. X-rays shine high energy photons through your body. Some of those photons are absorbed by your denser objects in here, like your bones, and what makes it through is what the image is. And so when you see an X-ray, it's actually a shadow of your bones. A shadow of that which absorbed X-rays. So X-ray vision, if you're sending X-rays through a two-way mirror, if there's nothing on the other side of that mirror to absorb and interpret that information, you're not seeing anything. X-rays just go through stuff. So no, Superman couldn't do that. Zirvnir with the 500 euros. Whoo! Baby. I'm once again sciencing for simp. Do you want me to, show you my feet? I shouldn't have said that. I'm not going to do that for anybody. For any amount of money, so don't do it. Aren't the fingernails enough? I recently read an article mentioning how Valve is partnering with OpenBCI and Toby to launch a VR brain computer interface by 2022, and Gabe Newell mentioned in an interview that we are also much closer to the Matrix than we think. What are your thoughts on that? Well, Gabe Newell, president of Valve, or founder of Valve, whatever it is, he's a smart guy. I love Valve's video games, and if they're partnering with scientists, I believe that's probably them using their own VR headset to try to work on immersive science and studies and brain interfaces and stuff like that. How close are we to the Matrix? Well, I believe if you were to ask me what's going to come first, the Matrix is very far off. Because first of all, immersion is going to come first. You're going to have a VR headset with the graphics that look so good and the audio that looks so that sounds so good, it's going to be hard to tell you're in a video game. That's pretty likely. What's much less likely is that soon there will be a brain-machine interface that can perfectly feed you signals into your brain that perfectly mimic sensory input from your organs that took 1 billion years to evolve. Okay? So the Matrix, that's very far away. In terms of early BMI, brain-machine interface stuff, I mean, there's very cool stuff on the horizons, like stuff you could plug into your brain and very, very brute force stuff. We don't know. Controlling the brain with a machine is a very tall order. So right now we're kind of brute forcing it, right? I mean, maybe I'm misremembering this, but, you know, brain-machine interfaces where you can brute force kind of electrically stimulate parts of the brain in someone, in a person or a patient who has something like epilepsy or Parkinson's, and you can tamp down tremors. That's a very brute force way of doing it. That is a very different prospect than being able to use a computer to feed you in a perfectly indistinguishable sensory experience. So I don't know what Gabe exactly means when he says closer than we think. I bet he means close to really, really, really immersive VR. But for plugging your brain into stuff and putting you in a different reality, I'd put money on that being decades away. If ever. Chris New with the 20. Hey Kyle, did you ever notice the undeniable similarities between the protomolecule in The Expanse and Phazon in Metroid Prime? I haven't found anyone online mention it, and I'm kind of surprised. Well, as Ty and Daniel, or James S.A. Corey, as they like to say, everybody's stealing from everyone. I mean, I think the comment that they get the most about The Expanse is like, oh, they do this in Mass Effect. Did you get this from Mass Effect? The Expanse and Mass Effect are taking from the same old school hard sci-fi stories of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they're just transposing them and making them fresh and new for a new audience in the 2020s. And so that is to say, I'm not surprised that something like Metroid and The Expanse share similarities, because having an alien thing that can reconfigure stuff into other stuff, that's been done, right? So I'm not surprised. I bet you could find many other similarities. I mean, just going down to the what spacesuits look like, you know. Tarzan and Odin with the 5 says, can we get a Kickstarter goal to cut off your hair for locks of love? No. My hair, I'll say this. It's not because I don't like charity. I would rather just give that amount of money, first of all, whatever it is. Second of all, based on the requirements for locks of love that I understand, my hair is not suitable for it. So it would be, just donate anyway, or I'll do it. Or I'll fake it. Oh, Invisible Cup. Hello. I didn't know you'd be making an appearance. It's so much bigger than my other cup. Brian Murphy, question from the VODlands. Is that something you're trying to start? Is Subnautica or its sequel on your list of games to stream on Twitch? Yes. I know I've been lazy. I know I did the Mass Effect stream and I haven't streamed in like a month or a month and a half or whatever it is. I know. I'm just lazy. I'll get back to it, I swear. Maybe the next big game that comes out. What's that? I don't know. I just beat Demon Souls. I've never played a Souls game. I finally beat Demon Souls. I want to play Sekiro. Cringe, the 10. Hey Kyle, if we ever achieve light speed and colonize foreign galaxies, would time dilation cause problems sending supplies? Yes. Yes. When things are too far away, and people are aging differently. That makes a coherent economic system very difficult. Captain Dagon, straight out of my Discord, I keep telling him to stream. I know, I will do it. Dang. Shah Halud says, oh, Kyle's just busy getting fancy pictures taken of himself. Oh, snap. Peer review. So, as I want to do every episode of Office Hours, I like to go through one of the last episodes of the facility, find a... I know, I keep futzing with the mic, I'm sorry. Find a comment that makes me go, hey, ho, wow. Highlight that comment, and then you become an honorary member of the facility, which literally none of you have taken me up on after I say you're an honorary member. Except maybe Brittany. Brittany is now a lifetime member because she's bringing me to Chernobyl. But the last episode of the facility, I went to Syracuse University in New York, and I looked at actual lava. Dr. Carson and his team there are using a giant furnace to pour out billions of years old rock onto different surfaces and different materials to see how it flows, how it moves, how it acts. It's absolutely fascinating. It's like a 25-minute video. And I'm very proud of it because it's a cool kind of on-site video that we don't do very much here at the facility. So if you haven't seen it yet, please go see it. I can promise you that there will be another video from my little lava excursion, but it's quite different. I threw something into the lava to see what would happen. And that's all I'll say. But the result... Something happened when I did that was so unlikely that I was flabbergasted that I was able to make it happen. So look forward to that. But in the meantime, we have comments of people saying stuff and things. Duke Nukem said, calling it now, Kyle's house will have a lava moat, if it doesn't already, at least. I'm not going to build a lava moat. XKCD in How To pointed out how hard that would be. Shane Spikes said, how fast do you have to slap an ancient chunk of obsidian to revert it to its gooey lava form? No. Jones TT, the most dangerous thing in the lava's path is water, so we make sure there's no water. Sometimes we pour lava over apples, though. Aren't apples like 85% water? That's the interesting thing. Even with something like an apple that has a lot of moisture content, it's not free moisture content in the sense that the lava would have to get kind of into the apple to really make a... I mean, I'm sure it bubbles around the skin of the apple, but once it solidifies and cools around the apple, it acts as a buffer, a thermal buffer around the apple so it doesn't have all this surface area to heat up across. The pile of sand, like you're seeing behind me, is a lot of surface area spread out for that heating of the moisture to happen. But now we have to go through the painstaking process of picking who you think, or who I think, Sauron says, an artist, a science, and a geophysicist. Shots fired. I don't know why I said that. I'm not picking on geophysicists. This is the perfect question to ask, is lava wet? Koeski Star says, Kyle, I love seeing your excitement for science. It's something special. What takes it to another level is that you take us with you on your journey of excitement and discovery. I really enjoy what you do, and I hope you do too. That's all I can possibly hope for. But I think, no, maybe not that one. Yep. Sorry, I'm losing my mind a little bit. I think I'm getting. George says your brain quit the chat and he broke. These aren't Vanta Black nails. I could have done that. I tried it. It just flakes off really quick. You know what? I am losing my mind a little bit. So I'm going to give it to Daniel Rodriguez. Oh, nope. Sorry, buddy. Goetsky Star Zero, who said something very nice to me. You know, it's hard. It's hard reading these sometimes. You know, my job's pretty hard just reading all the nice things that people say. So Koweski, you are now an honorary member of the facility. You get your bottle of your very own Vanta Black fingernail polish if you want it. Congratulations. Tremendous. Just tremendous. Just tremendous. And now Kevin. Nope. Now Kevin will give you your very own plaque. Kevin, that's not a plaque. That's a SpaceX cup that you got at SpaceX with lasers in it? We gotta Marie Kondo your stuff, man. This clutter is just getting ridiculous. Jeffrey Zhao says, why do you look like Morbius? Do you mean I look like Jared Leto? Well, it's because I look like Jared Leto a little bit sometimes. He climbs at my rock climbing gym. I've seen him there a couple times. He looks like a weird... kind of walks around like an elf. Like an elf that but is like from another realm. It's just like, oh. And I'm better at climbing. I've gone on record saying that. I am a better climber than Jared Leto, and I can prove that. Well, actually, my finger snapped in half the other day, a couple weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, so maybe not. I could get him. Pseudonymous entity says, is the obsidian created there same as natural obsidian? And can you affect the process to alter the created obsidian? Color, transparency, etc. Yes. Over at the Lava Lab in Syracuse, they control all the aspects of the lava. So you can get traditional obsidian, or what you would call traditional obsidian, but they control what they put in there. So in another one of the pores, in the smaller indoor pore you also see in the video, they put like iron pellets in it to see if there was... what happens to the flow when there's more of a metallic content to it. And they do that because even though it might not be likely in a terrestrial or a Terran, a volcano that you'd find on Terra, I've been watching a lot of StarCraft, find on Terra, they are using some of this lava pore data to theorize and study what might happen in volcanic eruptions on other rocky planets that might have a much higher metallic content. Cringe YouTuber name says, your finger snapped in half? No, it didn't snap in half. I just partially ruptured a pulley in this finger here. A pulley is some tissue that keeps your tendon close to your bone in your finger. And I pulled too hard on something like this, actually, and you hear a pop, sounds like this. And you go, oh! And then in about 6 to 8 weeks, I'm good again, baby. Atakuman says, I found a spare Kevin just walking in the outside wall. Wait, I found a spare Kevin just walking into the outside wall of my house. Should I dispose of him or no? A cleanup crew is on the way, and just let him. He likes it. Just let him. He's not going to hurt anybody. Just let him. Just let him do the thing. Gorf says, stream the new D&D game. I heard it's terrible. Yeah, visitor is saying, I heard it's terrible. So, probably not. Plus, I've never played Dungeons & Dragons before. I know, crazy. So I'm not super interested in it. I play the other Wizards property. I play Magic the Gathering like nobody's business. actually have some more of me playing some Magic the Gathering games coming up on another channel pretty soon, actually. Playing against someone that you Magic nerds have been asking me to play against for years, the Professor. I do play a game against the Professor. So if you want to see the best hair in Magic the Gathering, get ready, baby. Matthew Cotton says, just stream Dark Souls. Maybe Sekiro. Holden Pope says, Kyle and Vsauce collab at some point? Sure. Fun fact, I don't think I've ever told anybody this. So now that makes me think that I probably did that for a reason, and I'm not going to tell you. Never mind. Yeah, sure. Oliver Porter said, could a UFO make a shockwave that canceled out the sonic boom? I want my question answered. I disagree with the premise. See, that's the point. That was the point of that article that I pointed out, is that when you say, like, well, how could a anti-sonic boom shockwave from a UFO work, Kyle? Well, that assumes that that's a thing. That assumes that that is what this craft is doing. And that assumes that this is a craft with something in it. I disagree with the premise that any craft is moving in a physics-breaking way at all. I don't think that's the case. I think there's better, more likely explanations. And so that makes me trying to answer a sonic boom canceling technology pointless, right? I'm not going to speculate again about something that's completely speculative. Because then I'm wasting your time. I don't want to waste your time. It's worth something, probably. A little bit. Sin says, just got here. Can you sum up the document? We don't know what these things are because we have bad data, but some things are definitely weird. So let's get to our very last topic. I want to introduce a little philosophical dread into your system today. As you know, I am not a fan of social media. I consider it to be a net negative. I think that human society hasn't evolved to the point that it can really deal with in a mature, sensical way what social media allows us to do on a scope and scale that has never been before possible. And a new paper from a number of scientists, obviously, make the same argument. Stewardship of global collective behavior. And this is from some philosophers, some biologists. And what they are, in a sense, arguing for in this new paper is to classify social media and communications technology like it as a crisis topic. So in scientific fields, a crisis topic is something that needs to be studied heavily and quickly in order to deal with a pressing known problem. A good example is climate change. So climate change is a crisis topic, and the journals and scientific studies on climate change are needed and pressing because it's a crisis. Perhaps the biggest crisis. They're arguing that the study of communication, like social media, should also be a crisis topic. And they say this because there has never been a time in human history where it is easier or cheaper to flood the entire global discourse with some kind of communication. And we know from studies of social media that what spreads the fastest is mis- and disinformation. And that can cause crises.
But Kyle, you're just fear-mongering. Didn't the same people say the same thing with, like, the printing press?
Yes. When we started printing books and putting knowledge into forms that could be distributed to populations easily, it was a problem. People were worried about it. congregations in early Europe, churches, didn't want people reading their own Bibles. They thought that was their job, to read and interpret the Bible for the masses. Even back when the printing press was invented, they were worried about people having access to information and having people freely put out their own information. That's true. But social media is a different beast. A printing press compared to Twitter is like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Something like Twitter is so much more effective and so much faster and reaches so many more people that it really is, and social media really is, in a class of its own. One of the authors of this study, you know, when you're comparing it to some other forms of communication, you know, there's a difference between someone reading a book in the 1500s or whenever Martin Luther put his 99 things up on the church door. I forget what time it was. I know. I'm sorry. I went to a lot of Catholic school, but I forgot. I'm sorry. But him causing a ruckus, I mean, the Reformation was more than a ruckus, Kyle. I know, but I'm saying the time delay between a guy writing 99 things down and putting it on a building and people reading it and taking years and years to reform the church and blah, 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 blah. The difference between that and the ability for one person to tweet one or two things and suddenly you have a guy in an animal horn helmet storming the Capitol. Totally different animal. And so these scientists argue that social media should be considered a crisis topic that should be studied because of its potential damage to society that we're not ready for. Because we tend to just adopt this technology, and people and companies like Facebook and Google, they tend to just roll this stuff out without thinking about the potential implications. Now, I said I wanted to introduce a little bit of existential dread, and I'll do that right now. And I think I might make a video about this idea that I'm about to say. Steve Cosma says, "Get back to the UFOs. Get back to watching the VOD." Existential dread. I might make a whole video on this, and Steve just put me in a bad mood, so I'll say this. Imagine all the potential technologies that humans could discover, all the innovations, all the discoveries. Imagine it was in a giant urn, the urn of discovery. And inside that urn, there were 100 gray balls. And those gray balls each represent some technology that's either beneficial or not harmful. Oh, vaccines. That's great. Oh, television. Cool. Something like that. But in a big enough urn, you would imagine that there could also be some black balls. Some balls that represent discoveries or technologies that pose an existential threat to humanity if we were to discover it. For example, what if, before we really figured out atomic weapons, what if tomorrow we found out that you could microwave a certain kind of sand and it would cause a nuclear reaction? That would be the kind of discovery that could be world-ending, right? If one person could make an atomic weapon in their home. That could be society-ending easily. So, I put this to you. Do you think we've just gotten lucky in not pulling out one of those existential risks from the urn? Have we just missed them? Are they coming? We discover new things every day. We always think more knowledge is better. But is there an info hazard lurking in the urn somewhere? And someone is about to grab it, and we're not ready for it. I think social media is pretty close to one of those black balls. But But you know, who can? I mean, let's just let's just wish Kim Kardashian a happy birthday. Oh. WEB says, "Is this just a great filter discussion in disguise?" Yes. That's also one of the great filter options, right? That at a certain level of technological sophistication, every society discovers this one thing and it wipes them out. And that's a great filter. Like most societies in the galaxy, they develop nuclear technology, blah, 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 blah. Then 100 years from then, they discover how to do X and it obliterates their society. That's possible too. Holden Pope says, I only use Discord and YouTube and fandom. Now, I know it sounds a little high and mighty of me to be saying how bad social media is while I am currently broadcasting to you on a social media site. But I'm trying to at least get the knowledge out there. And I try to use social media in a way that is beneficial and educational and useful. Unless I'm tweeting pictures of me dressed up as Lady Dimitrescu, which I argue is also useful. But because I have to play this game to be a part of this conversation, I want to at least personally, and I want you to be aware of the potential hazards and philosophical implications here. Cuddle Rooster says, hey, I'm just trying to see Catgirls IRL. Constant Dino says, the Mythbusters once found a way to make strong explosives using materials the average house has and weren't allowed to post the episode due to it being an info hazard. Yes, I've talked about this. I've talked about this with Adam, and there's more than you know. There's more things than you know that they tried to do on Mythbusters or wanted to do, but like, either they or someone like the FBI was like, you can't show people that. And I can't tell you what those things are. But I know them. Storytelling Snack says, I made my instant coffee so strong it tastes like vodka but without the alcohol. Cool. Chris Norris says, because of social media, the flat earth theory has made a comeback for the first time in over 2,000 years. The thing about the internet and social media is it gives ideas that are legitimately nonsensical and insane and dangerous. It gives those ideas a place to live and thrive in communities where before those ideas were rightly shunned and critiqued and ridiculed. Social media, for all its benefits, I would never argue there aren't benefits, but for all its benefits of creating feelings of global placement, feeling of placement in a global society, having friends from other countries and being connected with people who share your own interests, blah, 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 blah. For all of that, it also creates places for some of the worst ideas and worst people in society to freely discuss what only a psychopath would say openly. I mean, I don't want to, bring everyone down, but I mean, just the absolute scourge that is child sexual abuse materials online in dark places of the internet and social media and encrypted messaging apps and programs. If you haven't done any research on how big of a problem, how much of an epidemic that is, the problem is so much worse than you think it is. And most of it runs through Facebook. It makes it easy for bad people to have bad ideas together. And because social media giants argue that it's just a platform, they don't want to regulate what's on their system, it gives people an excuse and a place. That's step one. Regulate crap and bad ideas and harmful things. I'm getting agitated, and so I'm gonna read the first fun thing. I recommend if you're interested on that topic, morbidly interested, and you want to know more. There's a very good interview with an expert who wrote a number of articles for the New York Times looking into this on Sam Harris's podcast. So I would. It's like 2 hours long. I'd recommend that one if you at least want to know the scope and scale of the problem. So you may be bummed out. So I'm going to read the first comment that makes me happy, and we're going to end on that. Colby Teffer says, Kyle, you're autastic. I don't hate that. And make being a neurodiverse person feel way less isolating. Thanks for being a source of education, inspiration, and an awesome role model for the autistic community. Also, I love the nails. I love you. Not in that way, but in like, a social media kind of way, fake. Thank you so much, Colby. I want to end on that because I just this morning or yesterday, I had a lovely artist reach out who said something similar about helping out the neurodiverse community. And she made, inspired by the video that we did, she made a lovely 3D printed metal necklace. And it comes in 3 different metals. It's beautiful. It looks like a shield hollowed out with a beautiful design in the center. Shield of separation, I believe she calls it. And she will be sending me one, and then I will show it all off to you. We will put the link everywhere. So if you want to purchase one of these important to me pieces of jewelry and maybe important to you, you can do that as well. And when we do that, she assures me that a portion of every sale will go towards AANE, Asperger's and Autism Network, which is the one that we partnered with. So look forward to that. It's a beautiful piece, and I'm just excited I'm humbled and honored to be of any help to anybody that I possibly can. And if I've been any help to you today in learning some sciencey stuff, even though we got kind of heavy near the end, you can continue on this conversation with me. Patreon.com/Kyle Hill at the $6 tier. You get to join our Discord. You can talk with me pretty much every day. I'm in there lurking. I'm always lurking, but I'm also working. So not always. Anyway, and you can get episodes early, behind the scenes photos, private members only live streams. Thank you so much for joining me this week at the facility. This week, what are we doing? Oh, I tried to make the darkest place in the universe. And that will be the video this week. I will see you next week live on office hours. But until then, thank you to my security team for keeping today's chat ruly. Thank you all of you who simp for science, who are helping me and the rest of the faculty and staff here give you the very best in education that we possibly can. Can't do it without you. So until next week, be nice to each other. Because this is all we got. Because this is all we got. Okay. Now I'm just going to end the stream here.
Yes, the stream's over. No, I think they bought it. Yeah, one of the guys, he was really trying to agree, like, I think I got everyone on my side. Nobody suspects a thing. No, swamp gas, reflected light off of Venus, the old tropes. They all end up believing it in the end. They'll never suspect when we come flying in from the atmosphere with our ships the size of... What's that? The stream... I don't know, why do you use something like that?